Fuck, I ended up right back where I started again.
Got a surprise for you.
Okay, right where I want to be finally. Oh, wow. Start this first. So we have quick activators. Let's make more steel, or well, steel, caravel, yeah, steel, sorry. Oh, I used all that, okay. Well, I am trying to get activators. 8 of them. I'm out of rubber. And we will run activators and long-acting activators. Quick activator. Portable fridge activated. Now I'll have the button. There's my, okay, so this is my hot. Going on the bar, and then I'm making a bunch of activators. And between them, I will be able to heal well. This has got to go in there. I don't really want 2 of these on my bar. It sort of confuses me. And then, yep. So I guess we could stack those because they are like no, they're on a different cooldown. So really, I don't want them. I just want to run activators because they're easy to make. They work, and oh, activator and activator. Oh, can you only stack 8 of them or what? Yeah, no, they stacked. And then can I stack more? Oh no, I guess 8 is the most you can do or whatever. What is the difference between these two? They won't stack higher than that, or what? Well, whatever it is. Then, I've got 3. Let's tighten this up here. Why? Oh, those fruit teas all have different values, I guess. So I guess I should go sell them all except for these. These are the ones I have on my bar, yep. And steak combo. I have a lot of spoiled food. I have those potatoes. Which I guess I could put a sort of different... There's a featherweight and... Living armor. Activates when HP below. So cool. I got another Diggy Boy. Yeah, I have like 60 pounds in food, huh? Or well, some of it's that. Some of it's I should go to the store and sell it and buy stuff. I have an apple tree. Apples. How about them apples? I could have gotten Morrowind for $5 on the summer sale, and I should have. I didn't really realize that I wanted it so much. I'll just buy it for $13.50. It's fine. The soundtrack. Gotta go to the vendor. I don't like when they pop you in here. Roast the cabbage. I'll just make all new food, and I'll just sell it all. I'll probably sell, like, I don't know, I'll go through those, yeah, but, saffron, potato. I'll cook that stuff that I just picked up. Yep. What else? We have caviar. Interesting. This is worth 50. Yeah, I don't know. Because it's going to go bad, right? No, it won't. It won't. This all, okay. That was good. I'm up like 6k things. What do you sell? Deer meat, preserved meat, pan-fried fish, and cucumber seeds. He's sold out of everything else. When did the formulas come up on the vendor? Red dot site, compact muzzle brake. In progress, in progress. Catch 5 fishes. Drive over 5,000 M. 3 out of 5 tasks complete. Use deviation skills. I already did those 3. Okay, so I have to fish and view and like 5 comments up edit players. Okay. I understand now why these guys are here, and I want to make a comment. I don't know if I still have those things. Yeah, don't I have a comment thing, or yeah, like a whispered thing? Oh, character limit. There's a character limit? Oh. I can do this too. I can do this. It's my fucking business to do it. Whisper posted it will take a while for it to appear. Oh, good. So I have a Whisper here for their whole thing. Yep, he got a thumbs up. 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 Your butt. Thumbs up. And there's my level 29. I got the like removed. Oh, not like removed. No, I do want to like his thing. That's fine. Praise be. Obtains cipher. View commissions. Task completed. Next is catching 5 fish, which means farming 5 corn. Which I don't know if I have, but I'm sure I can find corn out there. There's wheat. And look, I got 3 of the 5 corn that I need. I'll go home now. I love this game. It doesn't mess with travel or any of that stupid shit that New World kind of did dumbly. Yeah, take me home. Country roads. I will pay them the full amount for Morrowind. I should have bought it on the summer sale for $5. The store itself, the summer sale's over, huh? It ended like fucking, yeah. It goes like June, July. Yeah. Oh, Steam Fighting Games Fest. Base Punch Publisher Sale. Rust is cheap right now. Gary's Mod is $5. Physics Sandbox, yeah, but I mean, I don't know. And Chippy, Chip Destructible, Bosses, and Buttons. Here's the official game soundtrack. I like the official game soundtrack. I wouldn't mind doing it. Rust was a good period of my life, but full of too much toxic idiots. Too many toxic idiots that ruined the experience for me. I'm just not like those people. I am when they push me, you know? And I am when you're fucking, like, you know, bad person, but like generally, I'm not a toxic person unless treated that way. Anyone trading their silver gold ingots for my acid? Silver gold ingots. Huh? Well, in any event, I came to look for corn and pumpkins so I can make. Yeah, this corn it like respawns over and over. So I'll spend some time making more. I should have bought stuff, but I just have lots of links, I guess, for mimetics here. So resource detection detects nearby resources type, facilitating automated mining operations. Well, so no, I want to work on power. So the first thing was synthesis bench. Stardust shield wall. Synthesis bench. I'll do a Stardust shield wall. Yeah, that's okay. And then in the things... Oh, I have an available specialization node, huh? Not selected. Oil processing. Turn Stardust or portable mixed fuel into Stardust source using the electric furnace. Turn Stardust ore and portable mixed fuel into Stardust source. Portable mixed fuel, huh? Crop fertilizer that can significantly enhance crop mutation rate and yield, but also slow down growth. And then furnace sintering. Furnace sinter brick and glass crafting time, 50% yield out. Let's do furnace sintering. Sintered brick is something that can sell directly to the vendor, I guess. I don't know. I think this one sounds the better for the electric furnace. Yeah, the smelter one, that sounds more like it's in line for me. Portable fridge. Right now I have Prospector and Moonlight Mining. It doubles at night. Cool, at night. Oh, wow, I get double the mining at night. Awesome. I love this game. It is the best game I've ever played, I think. Devil's in the details. Okay. Got to do that thing, and I haven't gotten the teleportation tower or this thing. I guess I need to do this whole bit that's over here. We'll go to that, I guess. So I don't need the teleportation tower. I need to do the local content. So that's south on the road, which is probably better done flying. Yeah, what's to stop me from flying right here? Nothing. I'm gonna fly. Just fly the fuck out of here. Maybe something sold or something. I love this game. Look at the fucking vibe. I'm like soaring through the trees right now. Totally unfettered by the land. Just doing the content. Yeah, look, I can go from my base almost entirely to this monument with very little effort. I suppose I could have cut the corners, maybe. It's just gone directly to it. Maybe I want to live closer to the monument now. Will it let me do that? Well, I don't know. Getting back to the teleportal. Oh, there is a teleportal, though. You know, I like the water, though. The water is a good place to live because you can pull the water out of the river. It's going to take me hundreds of hours to get through all this content. Oh. Ah. Yep. All right. Ooh. That hurt me? He killed the tree. That's awesome! He killed the tree. Yep, yeah, that... Oh, wow, I like the 5 key. 4 for full, 5 for 5. God damn it. God damn it. Where is my... Oh my god, take me home, you fucking idiot. Ah, damn it, where's my thing? You're stupid, I swear to god, fucking developers. Alright, take me home. 2 minutes. God damn it. Fine. So dumb. Wow. I ran over Bambi. I love how I can fast enter my base. It's actually awesome. So, I don't know what happened here, but I want you to use facility. No, yes, use facility. Oh, what's in there right now? Oh, okay, so you are Yeah, a Digby boy, but I don't have my butterfly. I want you to withdraw and use facility. Place the yes, deposit. And I want you to F and sync to cradle. I'm beginning to understand the system a little better. Okay, now we're going to attempt to fly from the top of my base all the way to that monument. I'm doing this dumb. Maybe I should sleep because I now get a cat buff. I totally spaced that, but I'll take the free sleep. And now I don't have food or water on my bar, so I should maybe actually cook something too and stuff. I'll go pick some lotus. Ooh, what's that sound? Yeah, Rust and Gary's mod. That's it, huh? Well, I like Gary's mod, but I like the Gary's mod weapon, but I don't want to play Rust anymore. This rock lizard, he is an EM. Maybe it would be better if I just tried to fight him. I don't know. They will link, definitely. The birds are probably better prey for me. Yeah, there we go. The birds are better prey. We'll look at them. Dia. Fuck, did you lose my macro again? I think you did. Damn it. Well, first, I want you to say, attack. Attack on. Wait. 0.5. Dia. Poison. T. Actually, it's the dot open. It's copy paste, copy paste, and then here we say paralyze. Wait. 8, and then Dia. Poison. I think that's the macro. Yep, and we'll just open Red Mage macro or whatever. You want that worm, I won't steal it from you. That's fine. I love this game. I love this game. All the games seem so much better when you can balance them off each other. It's funny. There's the paralyze. Eight was too long. I'm gonna drop it to 6, I guess. There's the 3 dots, and now I want to heal. Oh, no. Maybe I should just try an ST on the cure macros. So I can battle bard or whatever, battle you. Yeah. I'll just learn ST, it's fine. Nice. Now sit. Oh. Yeah, when I get level 10, I'll use my 2-hour. But actually, well, yeah, like I probably will use my 2-hour because right about when I hit level 10, I'll have my 2-hour back. I'll use my 2-hour now when I get full mana, because it's like a free mob. Yep, we need all this lotus to make tea. Did you get it all? Yeah, you got it all. I love my little fruit beach. It's like a fruit beach. It has tons of fruit on it for some reason. And it translates to tea. Dorcas's post. Thanks for stopping by. Nice. That guy looks like he's loving the game. I'm loving the game. Yeah, he left now. He left. My building probably looks really dumb to people because it's not done. But when it's done, it'll be awesome. I want to make a glass pyramid. I'm going to knock down all the walls when I get glass. I'll make a lot of glass. God, the water looks good right there with like the fucking aura and the sun. It's weird that a free game is my favorite game of all time. It's weird. Now, what now? $153 hours. God damn, man. The attack on macro works. Oh my god, when I get Astro Rings, it's gonna be so awesome. Why won't you do what I want you to do? Protect him. Casting's interrupted. Ah. I want to move and sit. Just sit. Am I full? No, I'm not full. Well, it's not fucking up in this matter. But There, better. See? Better. Something happened with the video, but I got it. Fixed it. Much better now. Fucking... I didn't know, but I'll change the resolution when I get in. I'll fuck with OBS to make sure it's running well. Damn game sabotaging me. Or developers, really. It's the developers. Now, I want to make fish bait. Fish bait, fish bait. Let's go fishing. Too high, maybe. Oh, you can't fish in your own territory, I guess. I don't know. Get away? I don't understand.
Dive into fishing in Once Human, and I'm going to show you where to get a consistent free supply of bait.
I'm gonna make a sandwich real quick and get a glass of water. I'll be right back. Okay, sorry guys, gotta pee and then I'm ready. Take a small bio break. Okay, the last thing is I'd like to get some water.
Want and not have to craft bait. Jumping right into it, the fishing in Once Human is kind of a mini game. You cast your line out there, and then at the bottom middle of your screen, you're going to see your bobber. Once that turns green, there's a timer bar that shows up on there. Now, what I like to do is wait until the last second of that timer bar to actually initiate the reel in. I feel like when I wait until the last second, the bars on the right hand side are actually more full, and it gives you a better opportunity of catching that fish and not allowing them to escape. It can be a little bit daunting as you really have to pay attention to the right hand side of your screen and to the middle of your screen so that you can see what the fish is doing. But essentially what you have to do is reel in your line while moving your character the opposite direction that the fish is going. That's going to keep the line taut enough to reel in the fish, and if you don't do that, they will escape. Now, it doesn't always work to wait till the last second to initiate the reel in. You can see that in this clip, I actually started reeling right away when I saw the bite, and it still had quite a bit of that bar on the right hand side already filled up. But I still feel like waiting till the last second has a larger bar than if you don't wait. And you want to keep that bar on the top yellow and then white the entire time. When you're in the red, you need to move to one side or the other in order to make sure that you are actually reeling against the direction that they're going. So that's the basic idea behind catching fish in Once Human. You want to hook them and then reel the opposite direction that they're going. And as you can see, you can get deviants from fishing like the electric eel. But there's a deviant that you can find early on that's actually going to allow you to have consistent bait all the time. You're looking for Frog the Leaper, and it is going to continuously create universal bait for you in its deviant station. And this just takes out all of the hassle of having to craft bait and then going fishing. I left this guy running overnight, and I came back to about 55 of these lures. And that's even without setting up the environmental things that this deviant wants, like placing toys or having electricity hooked up. And there's a couple of things that you can do with the fish. You can put them in the meat dryer so that you have dried fish. You can sell them. You can also put them in a fish tank if you've unlocked that mimetic. So let me show you where I found Frog the Leaper. It's out here in this mess of cars and buses. There's actually a jumping puzzle, and there's a parking meter that you can interact with to have a chest spawn in this area. And it's just south of Grey Rotter, right next.
He actually had good info. Nice.
sniper, and you just want to look above the bus to see if this guy is here, and then you're just going to jump up, follow along the path in order to get to where this guy spawns. There he is right there, and you can just try to secure him. This is the third time I've been to this area. The first time I was in this area, that was there, and then the second time there wasn't anything there, and then when I returned, that was there, and this is the third spawns. Jump up, want to look up.
That's right across from my house, I think. So good.
Of games installed on them, and the Steam Deck in particular has like all my emulated systems, but then also like some lightweight and AAA games, so no matter what I'm feeling, I will usually be able to play something pretty good here on the Steam Deck. Same goes with the ROG Ally. I have it all set up and tweaked to perfection, but at the same time that battery life does give me a little bit of anxiety. The other secret is that because I use the ROG Ally in docked mode so much, I use a special feature that they have there, which will only charge the battery up to 80%. That's going to extend the battery life over time, and because I have it plugged into that dock so often, it's on charge a lot. And so because of that, the battery life on my ROG Ally in particular, and the use case that I have for it, is even smaller. Like I have 80% battery when everyone else had 100%. That also leads me to grab the Steam Deck more and more. And so yeah, in summary, that's basically all I'm keeping among all my different handheld PCs. There were really just three types of use cases that really struck me. Number one are those smaller devices in that lightweight handheld PC gaming experience, which I think is still a really fun market to play in. It's kind of like having a souped up Nintendo Switch. There's also that really high-end level of the market, those luxury handhelds, the ones that have like a larger screen or maybe a higher resolution or like Hall sensors, all those beautiful things that'll happen when you pay a ton of money. The thing about that though is that I've never bought one of those luxury handhelds myself. These are things that I just get as a review unit, and so that isn't still a very good fit for me because I personally wouldn't invest the money in that. It's just not a really good fit. Instead for me, I want something right there in that middle ground. And the Steam Deck and the ROG Ally, I think, are really good fits in that regard. And of course, among them, the Steam Deck still reigns supreme for me. Now, of course, things are probably going to change here in the future.
There's always a place and time to play the PS5, so I've decided to pick up the PS Portal just for that reason. Now, we can see if this really is worth it in 2024. The PS Portal is designed to be a streaming accessory. Remember, not a handheld console. It's designed to be a streaming accessory for your $500 PS5. But get this, if people are okay with a $200 PS5 Edge controller, why not a $200 PS5 streaming device? The PS Portal does seem to be a good pickup for heavy console players.
Okay. Well, let's get back to work. So, before I do anything, I have to determine on the map where I am as in comparison to him. Oh, I think I see it.
bus to see if this guy is here, and then you're just gonna, and it's just south of Grey Water, right next to River Heart Harbor, and you just above the bus to see if this guy is here, and then you're just going to jump up, follow along the path in order to get to where this guy spawns. There he is right there, and you can just try to secure him. This is the third time I've been to this area. The first time I was in this area, that was there, and then the second time there wasn't anything there, and then when I returned a little while later, it was there again. So just keep looking in this location to see if you can run.
What's going on, guys? Jurassic here today. There's tables and all sorts of things to be. What's going on, guys? Jurassic here today. I'm going to be teaching you how to get the frog deviant inside of one's human. There's going to be this very unique structure found inside the map, and you're going to have to jump up the vehicles, tables, and all sorts of things to track down this frog. Now, deviants have a weird thing where it's not always a guarantee. However, the frog's going to be a little bit different than the rest. This guy actually gives you ample chances to catch him. If you fail to capture, he's just going to teleport to a different spot in the area. So you'll see it says try again, and you just look around for him, and you'll see he's right here. You do the exact same stats every single time you do it. The percentage goes up higher to catch this deviant, and eventually you're going to capture him. And it also gets you 5 ciphers. If you're curious where it's at, it's found on this little island right here. And there is a...
Where is this? Oh, there's a town. That might be a good way to find it. No, that's not that town. That's not that town. And that's not that town. It's gonna be... There it is. I think. No, that's not it. Oh, there's like the yellow thing. That's an indication. Yellow thing, and then a church. Yes, there it is. I found it finally. So, just north of this, Greywater Camp. Okay, I found where it is on the map. So now I want to go to north of Deadsville. So we'll go do that.
Israel, we attacked many, but we have one more gift. We hacked the Heritage Foundation. Holy moly! The Heritage Foundation is a conservative think tank in America among the most influential public policy organizations. And what they are doing is leading Project 2025. So according to the SiegeSec guys, Project 2025 threatens the rights of abortion, healthcare, LGBTQ plus communities, and that's why they gained access to their database with user data, logs, and juicy info. And they accessed 200 gigabytes of mostly useless files in their servers. So while they won't be leaked, what they did leak was a whole bunch of other information. And what they leaked was the passwords, email addresses, full names of every user, every government employee in the United States, even the Heritage president, Kevin Roberts.
Mew Mew, I wonder what would happen if we leaked the passwords, email addresses, and full names of every user, every U.S. government employee, even the Heritage president, Kevin Roberts. Be gay, do crime? What? Be gay, do crime. Be gay, do... Oh my god.
Information like that, goddamn, especially if you're an active government officer. It's some scary shit. So again, a whole amount of stuff had happened. People had started talking about it. There were denials into what had occurred, right? Like obviously the Heritage Foundation, from what I understand, they insisted they were not hacked by any gay furries, okay? That was one of the headlines going around. So obviously, in order to protect their honor, right, the furries had to respond. Many articles and social media posts about these breaches have caught the attention of many people. One of them happened to be the executive director, Mike Howell. Mike Howell reached out to us at first to ask questions to understand our motives and why we breached his organization. And then he proceeded to throw insults, threats, and claimed our existence was against nature. So then they got a chat log, boys, and we're gonna read the fucking chat log. So the chat log involves Mike Howell. This is Mike Howell of the Heritage Foundation's oversight projects. I'd like to chat. Would you be willing to have a call? And then Vio says, yeah, unfortunately I'm not able to call. I'll stick to text communications. If you have another platform you'd prefer, I'm opening to adapting how I can. Mike Howell's, this platform's fine. What is that you are seeking or threatening? Vio's like, we want to make a message and shine light on who exactly supports the Heritage Foundation. We don't want anything more than that, not money, not fame. We're strongly against Project 2025 and everything the Heritage Foundation stands for.
Me too.
Is that why you hacked us? Just for that? Yeah, it should be obvious that's all we want based on our history as a hacktivist group. We don't seek money. Again, very politically motivated. Mike Howell, okay, listen to me closely. We're in the process of identifying and outing members of your group. Reputations and lives will be destroyed. Closeted furries will be presented to the world for the degenerate. Oh.
What is going on?
Sometimes you gotta imagine like some dude sitting in a suit, typing that sentence away on their Signal app, dude. You cannot hide. Your means are minuscule compared to mine. You can now either turn yourself in or you can cooperate. It almost sounds like John Wick almost, right? Like it's crazy shit. None of our members will be identified or outed by your organization built on hatred. The only ones deserving of a destroyed life are those within your organization. You want me to cooperate with what? Spreading
Gay, furry
misinformation and hatred? We won't turn against our own people. Your own people turned against nature. We will only accelerate the cycle. Nature has no defined set of rules, no authority, just like it should be. Humans can do what they want, and yet you choose to support an organization to harm innocent people. Why? How can you justify this to yourself, knowing you're threatening the rights and lives of other human people?
It's true.
The people you hate could be anyone, your friend, your mom, your sibling. God created nature, and nature's laws are vicious. It is why you have to put on perverted animal costume to satisfy your sexual deviances.
What?
It is why you are forced to hide like a coward. You violated our rights and broke the law. You have no standing to discuss such matters. The rights your org violates will be 10 times worse than any crime I've committed. You do not follow God if you use religion as a crutch to hate people. Mike says, would you like to meet virtually or send an emissary to meet me in person? I would like to be left alone without my rights being threatened. Are you aware that you won't be able to wear a furry tiger costume when you're getting pounded in the ass? And the federal president. Woo.
Oh,
Oh
spicy.
man. Oh man. Oh,
Oh my god.
oh they typed that out. Vio says, such unprofessional language from an executive director. Would you mind if I share this? Please share widely. I hope the word spreads as fast as the STDs do in your degenerate community, furry community. Meow, an image of a cat. Bestiality is a weird sin. It shows you've gone a few clicks too far. What's your opinion on war? My advice is you get out of mommy's basement, iron your shirt, buy a girl a drink, and ask her out instead of Googling new deviances for you to fixate on. Oh man, I'm writing a post about would you like me to immediately post your docs publicly or tease it for a little while first? Whatever you prefer, I'm tied up with the FBI issuing a 2702 order on your social media. You aren't that sneaky for your line of work. Screenshot of their Bitcoin wallet transactions. And of course, Vio just keeps joking around. So, yeah, it's one of those things where you get a back and forth between, like, you know, a professional politician adjacent person and a gay furry. And so you hold on. On one hand, you've got a conservative American politician, gay furry, okay, and this is the interaction, okay? If you ever thought you lived in the wrong timeline or, like, the wrong, like, you know, time in history, you're wrong, okay? You lived long enough to see this fucking verbal text transaction play out. Now, of course, you might be like, Muda, that is such an insane level of shit, okay?
Fast
There's
and
no
mini
way that
reflex.
could be real. Bro, Mike Howell literally quote tweeted that exact chat and said, complete and total victory. I forced the gay furry hackers to disband. Now, I'm going to just leave it right here, ladies and gentlemen. This is
Ooh,
a
much
story
better.
of literally epic reporting, okay?
Much
Yeah,
better.
one of the largest, I guess, think tanks in the country allegedly has been hacked, okay? Now, if that data is ever going to come out, which it probably won't since it's quote-unquote mostly useless, it is somewhat verified that an actual intrusion had occurred based on the exchange between Mike and Via, okay? Now, looking at this group itself and looking at their history, which is very important why I went into their history, the NATO hack, the various hacks on Israeli, cyber comms, the various hacks on U.S. DOE-related enterprises is something that has absolutely put these people not just on a map of fame amongst, hacker circles out there, because these are pretty impressive hacks for the most part. They're pretty impressive intrusions, especially on targets this big. But when you attack targets this big, I have no doubt that sometime in 2025, maybe 2024 even, that Vio and his friends could eventually be outed by the FBI and could absolutely be serving some serious punishment down the road. Because if it's one thing the United States government does not take seriously is attacks on its infrastructure, attacks on its organizations, and especially breaches regarding the politicians that make up the government of the United States. But hey, maybe these guys can ride off into the sunset and get away. Or maybe this is the story of digital Red Dead Redemption 2, where they're just perpetually on the run till the very end of time. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, yeah, that's how gay furries hacked the government. Wild story. If you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike if you dislike it.
Be curious what is that?
In 1980, animal rights.
But this is going to be an evolving problem for a long time. And adding, I pay a service by the minute for more accurate transcriptions of my own videos.
Thank you, some
which I-
ordinary gamers, for the excellent content from our channel. I'd like to sub to your stream.
Activists Ingrid Newkirk and Al.
Nope,
Mudahar, and today we got to talk about the furries hacking.
which I then upload to YouTube's backend. So companies that scrape transcripts are stealing paid work in more than one way. Not great. As far as where YouTube stands on this, well, in the past, the CEO has said that using its video content, including transcripts to train AI, it would violate the platform's terms. And that's actually been a big point of tension regarding OpenAI's Sora, as there have been many questions about whether or not it used YouTube in its training. You know, with all that said, where do you stand on this? What are your thoughts? What are your opinions? I'd love to hear from you in those comments down below, actually, whether it be for this or anything else I talk about today. And then, in news I did not expect, let's talk about Tenacious D and Donald Trump almost getting assassinated. Right, the comedy duo is in the news because during a show in Australia over the weekend, Jack Black is presenting his bandmate Kyle Gass with birthday cake, and this happens.
Make a wish, Canada. Don't miss Trump next time.
With that immediately resulting in a shitstorm. Not even a shitstorm, a shit tsunami, especially among conservatives in Australia, with one politician even calling for the two to be deported from the country because of the joke. It wasn't limited to like just right-wing Australian politicians. Like, there was a lot of people slamming this, especially given Jack Black's support of Joe Biden, with this whole situation leading to Jack Black announcing on Instagram that their tour as well as other creative plans have been put on hold. With Jack writing, "I was blindsided by what was said at the show on Sunday. I would never condone hate speech or encourage political violence in any form." With Kyle also addressing the situation himself, writing, "The line I improvised on stage Sunday night in Sydney was highly inappropriate, dangerous, and a terrible mistake. I don't condone violence of any kinds in any form against anyone. What happened was a tragedy, and I'm incredibly sorry for my severe lack of judgment." Already, according to the New York Times, Kyle's talent agency has parted ways with him over the joke. All of this, we've seen a number of mixed reactions. Some thinking this was deserved, others slamming Jack Black and accusing him of throwing Kyle under the bus. Among other things, arguing this is a weird place to draw the line, considering jokes that they've made in the past. So this, as others are just reflecting what a weird timeline we live in. Saying things like, imagine traveling back in time to 2006 and telling someone that Tenacious D broke up because Donald Trump almost got assassinated and one of them made a joke about it. But hey, with all that said, I gotta pass the question off to you. What are your thoughts on this whole situation? And then, who doesn't love a classic rags to riches story? But here's the problem. What I gotta tell you right now is a rags to riches to insane slave-owning cult leader story. You know, the natural, logical progression. So the main character in this story is a woman by the name of Kat Torres, and she reportedly grew up in a very poor neighborhood of Brazil, but from a young age, she capitalized on her good looks to get ahead, with her entering beauty pageants, and then, when she was older, becoming a model. Very soon, her career just takes off, with her getting numerous magazine covers and partying with Hollywood A-listers like Leo DiCaprio, whom she also claimed to have dated, and I think she was under 25 at the time, so possibly. And then, she used the fame that she got, scooping up over 1 million followers on Instagram, where she posted a mix of motivational, lifestyle, and wellness content, which is where, in a normal world, her life would have just settled at a nice, comfy plateau. But instead, things start to get a little weird. Like, for example, she's got this autobiography called The Voice, in which she claimed that she had spiritual powers that enable her to predict the future. She also created a subscription service and website promising love, money, and self-esteem that you always dreamed of. And for an extra $150, clients would get exclusive one-on-one video consultations with her. Then, things got weird when she started meeting people in person. We take, for example, Anna, who discovered Torres in 2017 during a very hard time in her life.
I had gone out of an abusive relationship.
Oh, shit.
And even before that, I had a difficult childhood. I suffered a lot of violence. I was having health issues. I had gone to conventional therapy. I had gone to many doctors. I was losing weight. I was really sick.
And so when Torres asked her to move from Boston to New York to work as her live-in assistant, she agreed, with Anna expecting to look after Torres' animals and do her cooking, laundry, and cleaning for about $2,000 a month. But then, when she actually got there, the apartment was nothing like what she saw on Instagram.
The house was really messy, really dirty, didn't smell good.
She also talked about the sofa covered in cat piss that she had to sleep on. Though there, she at least didn't have to spend too much time on it, but that was because allegedly, Torres wouldn't actually let her sleep for more than a few hours at a time. Since according to Anna, Torres just couldn't bear being alone, even during showers. So she said sometimes she just hid in the apartment building's gym and slept on a yoga mat instead. And then, after 3 months of this hell, Anna tells the BBC she was never paid. And so with no income and no alternative housing, she felt stuck in more ways than one. But they're saying that when she tried to confront Torres, she became aggressive and she triggered memories of domestic violence. Now, eventually, Anna says she escaped by moving in with a new boyfriend. But then Torres reportedly just lured in more victims in her cult group, with her marrying a man that she met in California and renting a 5-bedroom house in Austin, Texas. But they're then reeling in a number of Brazilian women, including including 3 whom the BBC interviewed: Desiree, Letitia, and Sol, all of whom say they got manipulated one way or another. With Desiree saying Torres told her she was suicidal and bought her a plane ticket so she could come give support. And then Letitia, she came over when she was just 14 years old, and Sol, she was homeless when Torres found her. But then, when they all got there, they said they encountered the same strict conditions, with Torres even allegedly forbidding them to speak to one another, also saying they required permission to leave their rooms and taking all their money. And in addition to that, Torres allegedly coerced Desiree into working at a strip club and then as a prostitute. And seemingly, like of course with any cult leader, Torres cut them off completely from their friends and family. But that also ended up turning out to be the downfall of her entire operation, because in September of 2022, Desiree and Letitia's relatives and friends back home launched social media campaigns to find them, with them raising the alarm after months of no contact, with the Brazilian media even picking the story up, all of which led to Anna catching wind of it and going to the police. Right? And so seemingly feeling the heat, Torres takes these women all the way to Maine, where she then has Desiree and Letitia film Instagram videos denying that they were actually captives and demanding people stop searching for them. But the thing is there, a couple months later, the police get the women to attend a welfare check in person, and the detective immediately spots the telltale signs of trafficking, with that including a distrust of law enforcement, isolation, and the reluctance to speak without Torres's permission, with the police ultimately arresting Torres, deporting her to Brazil, where she was also charged with slave labor and human trafficking, with the judge sentencing her to 8 years in prison for one case, though a key thing is that others are still forthcoming. Right? Because according to the BBC, there were actually over 20 victims in total, many of whom are still recovering from their trauma. Actually, part of the reason this is in the news right now is they released an interview with her from just before her verdict, but they're still completely denying any wrongdoing and coming off as almost delusional. With her then, as she got up to return to her cell, threatening the BBC reporters, saying they would soon find out if she had powers or not. And then, the case against legendary Atlanta rapper Young Thug is quickly and spectacularly fallen apart. Because if you don't know, Young Thug and 27 co-defendants are currently on trial, facing criminal racketeering, conspiracy, murder, and a whole host of other charges.
If you're a rapper, why do you need to be a gangster too? Isn't that the whole point of being a rapper? You don't have to be a gangster anymore?
To their alleged involvement in a street gang known as Young Slime Life. But I mean, since day one, this trial has been an absolute clown show for so many reasons that we've also covered before. But that including a spat between the lead defense attorney Brian Steele and the judge Ural Glanville, because last month Steele accused Glanville of meeting with a prosecutor and a key witness without telling the defense, and then pressuring the witness to testify. And then when Steele refused to disclose who told him about the meeting, citing attorney-client privilege, Glanville held him in contempt and sentenced him to 20 days in jail. Steele, he didn't budge, instead demanding that Glanville recuse himself from the case, which the judge refused to do 3 times. And all the while, this drama halted the trial entirely for weeks. But the recusal motion, it got before Superior Court Judge Rachel Krause, and now she's actually granting it. With her writing, this court has no doubt that Judge Glanville can and would continue presiding fairly over this matter if the recusal motions were denied. But the necessity of preserving the public's confidence in the judicial system weighs in favor of excusing Judge Glanville from further handling of this case. And so now Shakura Ingram's going to replace Glanville in the case, but for Steele's team, that's not nearly enough.
Once recusal is granted, is you have to rewind the case to June the 12th. How do you unhear days of testimony? How do you take notes away from the jury? It's impossible. We're going to be filing a motion for a mistrial based on the conduct of the prosecutors in this case.
So for now, we're gonna have to see if that actually happens or if the case just gets even more delayed than it already is, which, I mean, by the way, this is already the longest criminal trial in Georgia history, standing at 18 months now, with it taking 10 months just to get through jury selection, and then the past 8 months getting through less than half the prosecutor's witness list of more than 200 people. And then, I said it last time, I'll say it again, I've never felt healthier than the last 2 years, bro. That is just an absolutely awful impersonation of a good buddy of mine who first put me on to Armor Colostrum. Right? He has been and is still non-stop about the amazing effects, so of course I had to give it a try. Which is why I want to say not only a big thank you to today's sponsor, Armor Colostrum, but also a thank you to my friend, because he was right. Colostrum is a dairy bioactive whole food produced by all mammals in the first 48 to 72 hours after giving birth, containing vital, powerful nutrients our bodies need to thrive. And Armor Colostrum is physician founded and delivers the power of colostrum optimized for the human body. It's delivered in a digestible form of 400 plus functional nutrients like peptides, antibodies, and antioxidants that support your cells, gut, immune system, and so much more. And it works by strengthening your body's internal guard against environmental threats. And I've noticed my immune system staying strong despite being around my germy kids. An added bonus, I feel like I've noticed leaner muscle mass, decreased muscle soreness, overall quicker workout recovery. And I'm just pouring this into cold water or even my smoothie. Sip, enjoy, and let it go to work. So hey, head to tryarmora.com/Franco to level up your health and use code Franco at checkout to get 15% off your first order. Just click the link in the description or scan the QR code on screen. But then then let's talk about some day one RNC highlights. As I mentioned in the last second update yesterday, Trump officially selected J.D. Vance as his running mate, with many quick to note that the 39-year-old first-term senator from Ohio used to be very critical of Trump, calling himself a never-Trumper, even saying that Trump could be America's Hitler. Though, of course, in recent years, he has drastically
Could
changed
be.
his tune, becoming one of Trump's biggest supporters, something that some say show he is an empty vessel willing to do anything and declare fealty to anyone in the pursuit.
So Trump's VP called him at one time in his life, called him the American Hitler. I mean, he's right, but I mean, why would you take that guy on as your VP? Why? And why would he be so wishy-washy that he would flip his stance like that?
Oh, this exemplifies the never-Trumper who flipped. Or the narrative that the public was lied to about Trump, and so he saw the light, which going into the election could be a talking point and appeal for a certain subset
I guess
of
I'm a
voters.
never
As far as
Trumper.
reactions
Fuck
to Vance, we saw different ones. There were a bunch of big names cheering this on: Marco Rubio, Doug Burgum, former presidential candidate Ramaswamy, Elon Musk. But at the same time, there was also a solid number of Republicans who were more apprehensive, with many arguing that Vance might not really help Trump that much in the election. Or some noting that Vance has only been in Congress for less than 2 years, saying he's inexperienced, and with that, also arguing that he's not well known among the party. In that take, including some major players in key states like the Michigan GOP chairman and Georgia Governor Brian Kemp, he also really doesn't seem to be known among voters as well. For example, a CNN poll from just last month showing that only 13% of registered voters had a favorable opinion of Vance, 20% had an unfavorable one, and the vast majority just had no opinion, or they just didn't know who he was. With even veteran Republican pollsters questioning if Vance will help the campaign, arguing he's not that well known even in Ohio. While Vance did ultimately win his 2022 Senate race, in large part because he got through the primaries because of Trump, he wasn't a super popular candidate, and the race was fairly close despite the fact that Ohio has become a reliably Republican state, and one that saw sweeping GOP wins that year. He actually underperformed every other statewide Republican on the ballot by a big margin. But what I think this disregards is a few things. One, I think it shows how confident Trump is right now going into the election. I think he knows he is the guy, he has that hardcore MAGA support, that is who he's going for, and there will be enough people that also say they're Republican that are going to go, hey, I don't want Joe. He may believe, and he may be right, that he doesn't need someone that grasps a different demographic. But then two, the thing that Trump cares about more than anything is loyalty. And everything from J.D. Vance over recent years has shown he is Trump's guy. Even saying if he had been in Pence's position during 2020, he would have done what Donald asked him to do. But with this, there are concerns from other Republicans and hopes from most Democrats that Vance will alienate certain GOP voters. Also, you had Trump making his first public appearance since the assassination attempt, coming out with a bandage over his ear to huge cheers. Also, another part of the day that got a lot of attention was a speech delivered by Amber Rose. Right, and like I mentioned with J.D. Vance, Amber hit on that never Trumper that flipped. Talking about the first person she knew that supported Donald Trump was her father, and she couldn't believe it. But then with that, saying she changed her mind.
I'm no politician, and I don't want to be, but I do care about the truth. And the truth is that the media has lied to us about Donald Trump. I know this because for a long time I believed those lies. And I believed the left-wing propaganda that Donald Trump was a racist. I realized Donald Trump and his supporters don't care if you're black, white, gay, or straight. It's all love. And that's when it hit me. These are my people. This is where I belong.
So I will say that that sentiment was not universal, let's say, and the love by many not fully reciprocated, with people highlighting many Trump supporters taking aim at Amber Rose online with some absolutely vile, sexist comments, with the likes of one of the biggest right-wing voices out there, Matt Walsh, writing, "The RNC gives a primetime speaking slot to a pro-abortion feminist and self-proclaimed slut with a face tattoo whose only claim to fame is having sex with rappers. Truly an embarrassment. Not a single voter will be mobilized by this person." Also, on that note, unfortunately, there was no shortage of super racist takes about J.D. Vance's wife. We also saw some pretty hateful speeches targeting trans folks. But hey, at the same time, there's been a lot of talk in recent days about unity, folks on the left, folks on the right coming together, and we kind of saw that with a crowd of Republicans doing what I think a lot of Democrats would do, booing Mitch McConnell very loudly, though likely they did so for different reasons. But there was also a notable closing speech from Teamsters President Sean O'Brien. Just the fact that he talked was super historic because it was the first time that the union's leader had ever spoken at the RNC. Though there, O'Brien hit on economic themes prominent throughout the first day of the convention, and also he delivered a fiery speech condemning both parties for failing to do enough for working people.
There are some of the party who stand in active opposition to labor unions. This too must change.
You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of Chinatown. He's got a Chinatown here, halfway through Chinatown. poor, you could tell it drove him crazy. Poor Jack Nicholson had to wear like a fucking stupid band-aid on his fucking nose because somebody slits his nostril open with a knife. And like half of the movie he has on this like thing, and it was supposed to be funny, and it is. It is funny when you see Donald Trump looking like fucking Chinatown. It's like, yeah, I think that's kind of his element. Yeah, I would say. Oh my God.
At the end of the day, the Teamsters are not interested if you have a D, R, or an I next to your name. We want to know one thing. What are you doing to help American workers? Companies fire workers who try to join unions and hide behind toothless laws that are meant to protect working people.
Give them hell.
Are manipulated to benefit corporations. This is economic terrorism at its best. An individual cannot withstand such an assault.
So you know that is a recap of yesterday. We're going to be tuning in today, and we'll talk about it some more tomorrow. And then in huge international news, North Korea just had its highest ranking defection in nearly a decade. And not only did they defect, but they're a yapper, revealing how leader Kim Jong-un has possibly punished and purged members of his government after they met and negotiated with U.S. officials. All right, so to start, the defector goes by the name Ri Il-gyu. He's 52 years old, and he actually escaped back in November along with his wife and kids. We're only now learning about it because he has spilled the beans at an interview with South Korea's biggest newspaper this week. And the country's intelligence services also now confirming the defection without providing any other details. And so according to the interview, the defector's job was to handle political affairs at his country's embassy in Cuba, with one of his duties notably being to try and prevent the establishment of diplomatic relations between South Korea and Cuba, with him then deciding to defect after his bosses back home demanded bribes, as well as rejected his request to travel to Mexico to get treatment for his back pain. So he also said he was already becoming disillusioned with the regime and concerned about his future, adding that, quote, every North Korean thinks at least once about living in South Korea, saying in fact North Koreans yearn for reunification even more than South Koreans. Everyone believes that reunification is the only way for their children to have a better future. Today, the Kim Jong-un regime has brutally extinguished even the slightest hope left among the people. And actually, on the subject of having a brutal regime, the defector also claimed that 2 senior North Korean diplomats who negotiated with the U.S. during Trump's presidency were purged just a few years ago. Well, I will say it is hard to confirm that. We do know for sure that they were among the best-known North Korean diplomats dealing with Washington. But then at some point, they just sort of disappeared from North Korean state media, which is incredibly notable, right? One of them worked at the North Korean mission at the United Nations, which is huge. I mean, it is one of the main points of contact between the U.S. and North Korea. This defector says he was actually executed on accusations of spying for the U.S. after he was discovered to possess a large sum of American dollars following his stint at the UN.
Fucking fascists, fucking everywhere. Fascists everywhere, controlling every country.
The other guy,
every country. This is what happened. I got berated today for getting busted when I was 17 on drugs. Motherfucker, you done fascist up the world. The whole place is a fucking drug penitentiary now. Like in the whole world is Kim Jong-un. It's fucking stupid. Like the whole world is North Korea now. It's fucking dumb. Like I hate it.
With Trump, which a key thing there were widely seen as a failure for Kim, which also is followed by reports of the execution and purging of North Korea's top nuclear negotiators. But so now it seems to be an even bigger, more sweeping purge than we thought. With this defector saying this other guy was sent to prison camp on charges of bribery, which again would make him the most senior North Korean official to have been reported as purged after the breakdown of talks between Kim and Trump. And at this point, you're obviously shocked. Not Kim, not K-Dog, not a guy whose targets have included his right-hand man, his uncle, his half-brother, but also, I mentioned this because defections from North Korea have actually been going down in recent years. Like in 2023, for example, 196 North Korean defectors made their way to Seoul. But a decade ago, that number was around 2,700. So there, human rights groups and experts say, it's not because everyone all of a sudden loves the place, or saying that it's not because they don't want to leave, but because it's become more difficult and more expensive. With it usually now only the North Korean elite and people who are already living overseas that have any chance of getting away. Which, I mean, touching on that point, the last real big defection was when the former deputy ambassador to the United Kingdom defected in 2016. With some of the more recent ones that were notable being the acting ambassador to Italy in 2019, the acting ambassador to Kuwait in 2021. But now, I mean, this latest defection stands out because tension between the two Koreas, it's the highest it's been in years. I mean, Kim Jong-un has formally abandoned the goal of reunification with the South, even officially classifying South Korea as enemy number 1. And then, One Medical, Amazon's primary care clinic, they failed to escalate possibly urgent calls to medical staff and then instructed employees to lie about it. I mean, last month, the Washington Post reported on leaked documents that revealed serious safety concerns with the provider 1 year after Amazon acquired it, with them specifically finding that clinical staff had flagged dozens of incidents with elderly patients who had been routed to a call center in Arizona, staffed partly by contractors with limited training. With this including 16 incidents labeled as failure to clinically escalate, where the center had failed to get immediate attention for very serious and urgent symptoms that should have been escalated to medical staff, creating potentially life-threatening situations. Like in one case where a patient called reporting chest tightness and another where someone complained of a severe headache. But then, instead of being transferred to medical professionals, as is protocol, call center employees who don't need medical experience, they just scheduled them for office visits. Now, Amazon, for its part, did explicitly acknowledge to the Post in earlier statements that those 2 cases should have been escalated immediately, but they also said they couldn't find record for 6 other cases and claiming that the remaining 9 didn't violate its standards. But despite that, just yesterday, right, the reason we're talking about this now, you have the Post reporting that one medical circulated talking points telling workers to say that those patients, quote, received the care they needed when other patients asked about the incidents. And this, according to screenshots of Slack messages seen by the outlet, with those talking points directing workers to say that the safety team had reviewed the incidents and concluded that, quote, in all instances, our patients received the care they needed, without, of course, admitting the 2 errors one medical had already acknowledged, or the fact that it couldn't find records for nearly half of the calls flagged by medical staff. And then going further, workers were also told to tell patients that the Post article that had initially revealed these issues, quote, mischaracterizes the dedication we have to our patients, and we are sorry for any concern that it has caused. But then also, what's wild is when the Post asked about the talking points, a company spokesperson again acknowledged that those 2 cases had been mishandled. Right, so clearly this is a big mess, and Amazon's One Medical seems to be trying to sweep it under the rug instead of actually taking accountability as they claim. And I know, it's shocking. If we can't trust giant organizations hell-bent on making money, who can we trust? And then, y'all, breathable, quick dry, moisture-wicking, anti-odor. You may not think about it, but this is the exact type of technology that you need in underwear, especially in the summer heat. The truth is, I mean, you can suddenly find steaming beads of sweat forming in places that they shouldn't. With a nation experiencing crazy heat waves right now, you need to be prepared like me with one of the sponsors of today's show, MeUndies. With their signature super soft micromodal fabric.
Did I lose my macro again?
Of course breathable, stretchy, and comfy. MeUndies, they have comfortable cuts for everyone with over 20 different styles and 100 different colors and prints. I mean, these have definitely been my go-to underwear for my hikes, but also just to keep me cool on those sweltering days. And they're great for men and women. Like, I love MeUndies, but I mean, they have different designs, styles, and so many colors. I mean, I'm also a fan of how durable they are. And get this, if you aren't happy with your first pair of undies, it's on MeUndies. And I also think it's important to point out that they use sustainably sourced materials and they work with partners that care for their workers. So y'all, summer is here, more is coming, so be prepared with MeUndies. So get 20% off your first order plus free shipping at MeUndies.com/Phil. That's MeUndies.com/Phil for 20% off plus free shipping. MeUndies. Comfort from the outside in. But then, shifting gears, let's talk about this Lori Ellinger situation. Because nearly a year ago today, her only son, Trey, died while in police custody. And according to Lori, in late July of last year, Trey was in a drug rehab facility when he was stabbed in the shoulder by another resident during an argument. While his injuries, they weren't severe, the facility asked him to leave, which he did, assuring his mom that he would be okay and that he was going to meet up with his girlfriend. But by the following day, he was dead. And according to an investigative report released back in May by the Maryland Attorney General's office, a 911 call reported a man, Trey, laying down in the street, acting combative and trying to hurt himself. With an initial review of body cam footage showing that Maryland Transit Administration officers and medical personnel were the first to arrive on the scene, according to state officials. And then when Baltimore police arrived, the medics asked them to handcuff Trey, who was being erratic, with them laying him on his side until the medics injected him in the shoulder with a sedative and they lifted him onto the stretcher. According to the report, Trey was initially placed on his side, but as he flailed, he ended up on his stomach again after the medics were applying the stretcher's restraint strap. Then when inside the ambulance, medics began checking Trey's vitals while he remained on his stomach, face down on the stretcher. Then 4 minutes into the ride, the medics reportedly discussed shifting him, but they didn't immediately act. Then another minute later, a medic finally released the straps and helped Trey roll to his side, and that's when they noticed his lips were blue. So the handcuffs, they get removed, medics begin performing CPR. Trey's pulse then returns, they make it to the hospital, but he later died there. Within his autopsy stating that he died from an overdose on an antidepressant and methadone, which is commonly prescribed to help with opioid cravings. Now with this report was produced under a Maryland law that requires the state's AG to investigate all deaths that occur in custody. However, it is important to note that investigators aren't meant to be digging into the actions of medics, only those of the police officers. So there, several experts have pointed to missteps made by the medics, with that including by Eric Yeager, an emergency medical services educator in New Hampshire. With Eric saying the big issue at hand is that the medics left Trey prone for several minutes, potentially hindering his ability to breathe, saying, "I think Trey Ellinger would be alive today if he had been placed on the stretcher face up," with him even saying that he uses the body cam footage of this incident in his class as an example of what can go wrong if patients' airways aren't prioritized. And you have Gail Van Norman, professor emeritus of anesthesiology cardiology at the University of Washington, saying the sedative medics gave to Trey, they could have affected his respiration and upper airway muscles, making him more vulnerable to cardiac arrest. With him adding, the medics made a few medical mistakes, but this was a rapidly evolving situation where the unexpected happened. I don't envy them or the decisions they had to make. And meanwhile, you have Lori left wondering why they gave Trey the sedative in the first place, saying, I do believe they killed my son with that shot. He shouldn't be dead at 29 years old. Now there, it is worth noting that administering the sedative is reportedly in accordance with the Baltimore City Fire Department's policy. But this also is, according to a recent investigation by the Associated Press, this practice of using sedatives on those detained by police has been spreading across the country over the last 15 years. And that spread has reportedly led to avoidable deaths in its wake. And that's despite its obvious intentions of reducing violence and saving lives. And in Trey's case, it was determined that the police wouldn't face charges related to his death, with the city's prosecutors saying the officer's move in handcuffing Trey was necessary and safe. Going on to write, while receiving medical care, the involved citizens suffered cardiac arrest and later died, saying there is no evidence of causation between anything that the officers and medics did and the fact that the involved citizen later died. While thus far we haven't seen lawsuits from Ellinger family, notably the Baltimore City Police Department declined to comment on the entire situation, citing the potential for future litigation. And then, so as you might have heard, there's an election about to happen in this country. I know, disgusting. But what we need to talk about with that is the role that 6 people in particular play in determining how the election plays out. And actually not just in this election, but in all federal elections. See, I'm talking about the 6 members of the Federal Election Commission, or the FEC. But that's the agency that's responsible for administering and enforcing federal campaign finance law, with its stated mission being to protect the integrity of the federal campaign finance process. And while there have been concerns for a long time now that the FEC has been failing that mission, there are now increasing concerns that it's actively working against that mission. And that, thanks to a Democratic commissioner who's now siding with the GOP to lift all sorts of limits on political spending. Also, a thing that you need to know with the FEC is that it's 6 commissioners. They're nominated by the president and confirmed by the Senate. Also, at least 4 commissioners have to agree to take any substantive action, and no more than 3 commissioners can be affiliated with the same political party. So with our 2-party system, that means 3 Republicans and 3 Democrats. And believe it or not, for a long time that actually worked. Right, for the first few decades of the FEC, which was established in 1975, it generally succeeded in its mission through consensus and compromise, improving election integrity by doing things like imposing restrictions on contributions and expenditures, establishing public financing for presidential campaigns, and coming up with detailed regulations on the personal use of campaign funds. But for the past 15 years or so at least, the agency has consistently been divided along party lines, struggling to deal with investigations, enforce existing guidelines, and update rules to keep up with technology. In fact, a 2021 study analyzed 5,000 votes on the FEC since 1990 and found that partisan conflict has come to characterize commission voting patterns, with deadlocks on commission actions skyrocketing in recent years. Also, noting the partisan divide poses real problems for the agency in meeting its mandate to enforce the law and offer regulatory guidance. And so with that, it's generally been the FEC's Democrats seeking more robust enforcement of election laws and greater transparency, with the Republicans standing in the way. And so according to advocacy organizations like Campaign Legal Center, the result has been that the FEC is failing to enforce the law against both Democratic and Republican special interests. So ultimately, the real loser isn't just any one party, it's the American people. With the CLC running at the FEC's inability to do its job has allowed wealthy special interests to flood our elections with vast amounts of dark money, in turn making it more difficult for everyday Americans to have their voices heard, because yet candidates and elected officials instead favoring policies that prioritize their donors. And I mean, to that point, the 2020 election saw more than $1 billion in dark money spending at the federal level, actually boosting Democrats more than Republicans for the first time. But more notably, that overall number is just so big compared to prior years. I mean, in 2006, for example, spending by organizations that didn't disclose their donors was estimated at less than $5.2 million. And also a key thing to note there is that this goes beyond just the FEC. But the Supreme Court's controversial 2010 decision in favor of the conservative nonprofit group Citizens United made it so that corporations and other outside groups can spend unlimited funds on elections, with that ultimately resulting in the creation of so-called super PACs, with that notably all coming from a case actually brought against the FEC, and for one of the rare cases in which enough of the commissioners agreed to take action. But still, with that said, what's happening now is perhaps just as significant, with Adav Nodi, the CLC's executive director of the Campaign Legal Center, telling the Times, "We are in a new era. It is breathtaking the speed in which the rules are being torn down. There has been more activity in the last 2 years to allow money into the system than in the 20 years before that combined." And, you know, the so-called new era, it began in 2022.
I love this boss. This is the most fun boss I've fought all year.
Who has now repeatedly crossed the aisle
So
to
fun.
Republican colleagues, helping make changes that have been described as some of the most significant regulatory revisions since the McCain-Feingold campaign finance law that was put into place 2 decades ago. And with that, one of the biggest decisions has been to open the door for super PACs to work together with campaigns to plan and execute costly door-to-door canvassing operations. Whereas before, politicians had been forbidden from coordinating strategy with super PACs to limit the influence of megadonors. Because one of the big key things to note here is that super PACs can raise unlimited amounts of money. And, you know, with that, this decision hasn't totally lifted that prohibition, but it still means that that politicians and super PACs are working more closely than ever. And actually, to that point, it was weeks after that decision that the Trump campaign started making plans to sit down with groups like that to talk about working together and planning for the election. And it wasn't long after that the commission issued another decision, with them allowing federal candidates for the first time to raise unlimited money for state-level ballot measures. And that is immensely notable right now because you have issues like abortion rights ending up on ballots in the fall. Right? Florida has a measure on the ballot already, an abortion rights group in Arizona reportedly has enough signatures to put a referendum on the ballot there as well. Though also with that, something to keep in mind is that this could actually benefit the Democrats. Right? Because if the Biden administration can now raise money for abortion rights ballot measures, he can add to an already existing fundraising advantage that he has over Trump. And notably, both of those decisions, along with many others, were settled with a 4-2 vote, with Lindenbaum being the decider. Right? Something that had a lot of people puzzled, especially if you knew her background, right? Because her political background is decidedly progressive. She marched with the left-wing anti-war group Code Pink. She later served as a top lawyer for Stacey Abrams.
Or we shrivel up. By your leave, Captain.
Yes, the hour of my return is already over late. The people may hate me, but that does not free me of my charge.
Former candidate for Georgia governor. And in fact, Sean Cooksey, the Republican chairman of the FEC, told the New York Times, "I doubt that there is a single mainstream policy issue that we agree on, that both he and Lindenbaum agree that the current campaign finance system is burdensome and overly complicated and often unfair." Now, Lindenbaum, for her part, she has downplayed both her role and the impact of the decisions, telling the Times, hey, I'm just following the law, and saying what the law says and what some people might wish the law says are different. But critics like Craig Holman, a lobbyist for consumer advocacy group Public Citizen, he's accused Lindenbaum of turning the FEC from dysfunctional to functionally avoiding enforcement. And Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, a Rhode Island Democrat who's very outspoken on the issue of dark money, he's called it inexplicable and stunning, telling the Times what he had originally hoped were tactical compromises, it now looks more just like surrender, and adding, who would have thought deadlock and dysfunction would be the good old days? But notably, with that, we've also seen other Democrats saying this is a good thing. Right? There's a real divide between those who oppose the influence of money in politics and people who are ready to accept it because they know that it might help them win. Mark Elias, for example, is a high-profile Democratic lawyer who's probably best known for his efforts to protect voting rights, but he's actually also been one of the people pushing the FEC to let the money flow more freely, including by pushing for the measures that we've been talking about. And this, interestingly, while some other Republicans have actually lobbied against some of these looser rules, even warning against making sweeping changes in an election year. So at the end of the day, it's not just a pure black and white situation, it's not neatly divided between left and right, and things have only gotten more complicated thanks to the introduction of stuff like AI. I mean, in May, we saw the Democratic chair of the Federal Communications Commission, or FCC, announcing plans to consider a rule requiring the political advertisers to include on-air or written disclosures when they use AI-generated content, which notably is something that the FEC talked about tackling almost a year ago, but they haven't finalized any rules yet. But nonetheless, FEC Chairman Sean Cooksey accused the agency of overstepping its authority, writing in a letter that the proposal, it undermines the FEC's role as the top enforcer of federal campaign law, saying that this could, quote, sow chaos among political campaigns for the upcoming election. Though the FCC chairwoman, for her part, she said in a statement that the FCC has required campaign ads to disclose sponsors for decades, and that adapting these rules to the arrival of new technologies, that's not anything new. And adding, the time to act on public disclosure of AI use is now, saying there are benefits to this technology, but we also know that it has the potential to mislead the public and misinform voters with made-up voices and images that impersonate people without their permission. And so with that, while some senators have brought forward legislation requiring AI-generated political ads to feature disclaimers, those proposals are now seemingly dead in the water. And this one agency that just needs 4 people to agree to at least get some sort of guidelines for the book, even if they wouldn't be a law, they can't do that. And this, of course, all while making it even easier for the rich and well-connected to influence our elections. You know, even if it's hard to say what political party will ultimately benefit more, the one thing that is truly clear is that it's leaving out the rest of us. But that is where your Tuesday evening and Wednesday morning dive into the news is going to end. And don't worry, you won't have to miss my dumb face for too long, because one, I'll be right back here twice tomorrow. The first at 7 a.m., first at 10 a.m. Pacific. Oh my God, I think I'm having a brain aneurysm. First, it's 7 a.m. Pacific, 10 a.m. Eastern. I'm contesting a live show this week. It's been really fantastic. I'd love to have you. 2 more episodes of that this week, and then I'm gonna take next week's mornings off and retool and figure out what I liked, what I didn't like, and then come back and give you a better product. And of course, 2, your regular Philip DeFranco show, as per usual. I love you, faces, and I'll see you then.
Welcome to the Daily Report for July 16th, 2024. I'm John Dickerson. A ladder, a 2-minute warning.
New details in Trump assassination attempt. RNC enters day 2 and more. This is CBS News. Thank you, CBS News, for the excellent content from our stream. I'd like to sub to your channel.
And a shooter on the roof right over their heads. More details are coming in on Saturday's failed presidential assassination. First night of a political convention is usually dead boring. Not last night at the RNC. Heroes welcome for Donald Trump, and in prime time, the Teamster president who rattled the plutocrats. We'll get a report from Bob Costa in Milwaukee, and we'll talk to a political economist about the deeper currents behind economic disappointment in America. It's not just inflation.
Yeah, you guys don't give 2 shits about the American worker at all. You don't care about the proletariat. You don't care at all.
A reverse Midas touch, turning gold bars into prison bars.
I think Hoffa was the last good leader we
Biden's
had.
Plan to limit rent, elevated summer COVID levels, and a man cave for the man on the moon. The Daily Report starts in a moment. Hello, thank you for joining us. We begin our report with a 2-minute warning. CBS News has determined that's how much time lapsed between the first warnings about a man with a gun at Donald Trump's rally and the use of that gun. The analysis was based on video. We've also learned there were snipers from a local tactical team stationed inside the building that would become infamous, just 400 feet from the former president. The team was looking out of its windows towards the rally. If they had looked up at the roof of that same building, they would have seen the shooter. At least one of those officers did see the shooter before he got on the roof, but by the time they were able to call for backup, 20-year-old Thomas Crooks had already gotten into position, fired his gun, and was killed by Secret Service. One person at the rally was killed and 3 others were hurt, including Trump, who was grazed by a bullet on his right ear. That's what accounted for the bandage he wore Monday night at the kickoff of the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee, where earlier in the day he had become the first Republican ever to be nominated 3 consecutive times. Ohio Senator J.D. Vance was announced as his running mate, the first ever Marine combat veteran on a presidential ticket for a majority party. And for the first time in its 121-year history, the president of the Teamsters Union spoke at the Republican convention.
Under our current system, massive companies like Amazon, Uber, Lyft, and Walmart take 0 responsibilities for the workers they employ. These companies offer no real health insurance, no retirement benefits,
Nothing at all.
no paid leave, relying
Goddamn
on
fucking
underfunded
travesty.
public assistance.
I stand high on
And who
labor.
foots the bill?
You guys fuck the labor.
individual
I've lived in
taxpayer.
lower class
The
most of my
biggest
life.
recipients
You
of
guys
wealth in
done
this country
fucked us
are
so bad.
corporations, and
You
this is
fucked
real
us.
corruption. We must put workers first.
We'll talk more about the campaign in a moment, but first let's bring in Charlie DeMar and Nicole Scango for more on the shooting investigation. Charlie is a CBS News correspondent, and Nicole is CBS News Homeland Security and Justice reporter. Charlie, what's the latest that we know on the gunman's activity leading up to the shooting?
And that is a big piece of it, John. Investigators are trying to determine the shooter's movements leading up to the shooting in the hopes of getting to a motive. We know that the shooter spent time at a local gun range in the days before the shooting, purchased about 50 rounds of ammo in the morning before the rally here. And we also have learned today that the shooter went to a local hardware store where he purchased a ladder. Now, it's unclear if that ladder was used in the attack to get himself up on that roof. That part is still unknown. But the FBI says that they have concluded its investigation, its search of the shooter's home, the shooter's car. They did recover the cell phone. They've been able to crack that cell phone and get in, but sources also telling CBS News at this point they've not been able to extract any information that would lead them to any of the ideologies of the shooter or a potential motive.
Nicole, we're learning more about the snipers who were stationed at Saturday's rally, including that information about this being in the same building. What more can you tell us?
Yeah, John, I want to break down the sniper teams here for our viewers. CBS News first reported that the U.S. Secret Service counter-sniper team, that two-man team of a shooter and a spotter that neutralized the gunman, they were positioned over President Trump's left shoulder on a building behind him. The counter-sniper shooter fired one round, killing the gunman. Now, in addition to that team, there were multiple snipers from local tactical teams deployed to help secure that event outside the U.S. Secret Service perimeter. They were standing at the windows of the building the gunman ultimately scaled. Before the gunman scaled the building, a sniper from that local tactical team took a picture of him, identifying him as a suspicious person, alerting the command post. And CBS News has also learned that the sniper also saw the gunman looking through a rangefinder minutes before he tried to assassinate the former president. That triggered a call for backup. John, that tool is an instrument routinely used by marksmen to determine the distance of a target.
And tell us about the snipers that were positioned inside the building. Is that a normal part of the procedure? And why were they inside and not outside?
Yeah, I've talked to multiple former Secret Service agents that were surprised by this, but CBS News has learned that was part of the operational plan. Just yesterday, the Secret Service director said the reason those snipers were not on the roof of the building, was too sloped to position law enforcement. John, what remains unclear, how big was the footprint of local law enforcement tasked with securing that building the gunman scaled? And really, how long should it have taken for backup to arrive when that alert first came out? How long did it take?
And the Secret Service Director, Kimberly Cheadle, spoke to ABC News. What was her response to some of these questions, and what's kind of the key questions she's going to have to answer as this, she prepares to testify and come up with answers for these independent investigations?
Yeah, John, Director Cheadle told ABC that the shooting was unacceptable, that it should have never happened. There are a lot of questions here, some of them specific, like why wasn't the building the gunman scaled within the U.S. Secret Service perimeter? What's the TikTok here? More specifically, what was the communication breakdown between local law enforcement and the Secret Service? But we have a few big events on the horizon that Secret Service is tasked with protecting. The inauguration, the World Cup, the LA Olympics. So a big question, is the Secret Service equipped for the road ahead, and can they be trusted to fulfill their mission? Most importantly here, what needs to change?
Indeed. Charlie, what can you tell us about this independent review of the assassination attempt that's been ordered by President Biden?
I love this game. It's so sensible. It's got the Asian sensibility, all
is
of
simple.
it.
They have a no-fail
I
mission
love it.
when it comes to protecting national leaders. So that question will be at the heart of this investigation. President Biden says that this investigation will be independent. Those results will be made public. But you did reference that ABC interview with Director Cheadle. She was asked about the accountability. Who is responsible? She said ultimately that the buck stops with her. That will be a central point in the hearing next week, John.
Charlie DeMar and Nicole Skinner, thank you both very much. CBS News Chief Election and Campaign Correspondent Robert Costa joins me now from the convention site in Milwaukee. Bob, Trump chose J.D. Vance. That was the news yesterday. And you and I talked about, and you mentioned that there's a particular use for J.D. Vance with blue-collar voters, white working-class voters in states like Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, the three states that Joe Biden has to win if he's going to stay in office. Help us understand Vance's appeal, and also, aren't those voters already basically strong Trump voters?
It's not just about having Senator Vance park himself in Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan. It's also about having an edge. He has an ideological edge here. And sorry about this, John, but what's most important is,
Heavenly Father,
just wait 1 second, they're having
we
a prayer.
thank you for the blessings upon the United States of America.
What's happening with Bob is the convention is going on, and there's a prayer at the convention as there is to open and close it. We're getting a little insight here into all of the things that take place on a convention floor when we're not in prime time looking at the big speeches. Lots of milling around, lots of ceremony and activity that takes place in a convention hall during the day where people touch base with old friends. You can see there images of of the delegates listening to this prayer, no one needs to be reminded of the deep faith of many of the Republican members of the Republican coalition, and particularly for delegates at conventions. Many of them have thrown their lives behind both politics and their faith. So Bob doesn't dare answer my questions in the middle of the prayer, which for those at the convention are engaged in a solemn moment. So we will move on and maybe come back to Bob if we can. So back to the news. New Jersey Senator Bob Menendez has been found guilty of all charges in his federal corruption trial. Prosecutors said the lawmaker accepted bribes in exchange for political favors. Those who allegedly benefited were 3 New Jersey businessmen and the Egyptian and Qatari governments. Menendez has had this to say outside of court after Tuesday's verdict.
I'm deeply, deeply disappointed by the jury's decision. I have every faith that the law and the facts did not sustain that decision and that we will be successful upon appeal. I have never violated my public oath. I have never been anything but a patriot of my country and for my country.
Nicole Killian has been following this trial and has the latest. Nicole?
New Jersey Senator Bob Menendez and his legal team are vowing to appeal after being convicted along with 2 business associates. It follows a nearly 2-month federal corruption trial. The 3-term Democratic senator was found guilty by a jury on 16 charges, including wire fraud, bribery, extortion, obstruction of justice, and acting as a foreign agent. They carry penalties of more than 200 years behind bars.
Traitor.
Federal prosecutors say Menendez wielded his political influence to help the governments of Egypt and Qatar, accepting bribes that included nearly $500,000 in cash and gold bars, a Mercedes, and other luxury gifts. Immediately after the verdict, calls have increased for Menendez to step down, from New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy to Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer. Congressman Andy Kim is currently challenging Menendez for his Senate seat. Menendez is running for re-election as an independent, but Kim says not only should he resign, but that he should also not be on the ballot. Some lawmakers say if Menendez doesn't resign from his position, that he should be expelled from the U.S. Senate. The Senate Ethics Committee said it's now expediting its investigation into the senator. Senator Menendez is scheduled to be sentenced
like the leadership
in
I
late
know.
October.
Yeah.
John?
Nicole Killian, thank you.
That's the leadership I'm
CBS
used
News
to.
Chief Election and Campaign Correspondent Robert Costa joins me now again from the convention site. Bob, we're on the other side of that prayer.
John, hey, stick with me here for a second. Right, John, we're on the other side of that prayer right now. They're beginning.
We're on the other side of the prayer.
Giving the Pledge of Allegiance right now here on the convention
Why
floor.
are you
The whole
running in a
arena
particular
here
direction?
in Milwaukee has their hands over their hearts. They're listening to the Pledge of Allegiance from Marianne Taylor, the speaker on stage. You see a lot of unity here in the Republican Party tonight. This is part of what tonight's going to be about. Yes, on policy, the focus is going to be on the issue of crime, on the issue of immigration. But it's also, as they do the Pledge of Allegiance here, it's also about unity, political unity. Former Ambassador Nikki Haley will be making a major speech tonight. She was not invited days ago, but she is invited now. Just stay with me for 10 seconds here, John. The Republicans here have their hands over their hearts, now cheering the Pledge of Allegiance. The prayer has been done. So this is the kickoff of day 2. What I'm really watching after talking to delegates here and talking to top Trump campaign advisors is how hard are they going to hit the issue of crime? Do they really believe this can drive turnout in places like the Atlanta suburbs, the Philadelphia suburbs, the suburbs of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, places like Wauwatosa, where they need strong Republican turnout? And they're doing the national anthem right now. This is the beginning, John. I'll throw it back to you. The night's going to be long, and this is the beginning.
A shout out for Wauwatosa, which has a special place in my heart. Robert Costa, in the thick of it there in Milwaukee. Thanks a lot, Bob. Still to come, keeping non-citizens out of Election Day, why some lawmakers are trying to drum up voter action over something that's not exactly a widespread problem. Plus, what is a widespread problem, at least according to the majority of voters? The economy. We'll talk to a professor at Stanford about what's fueling so many Americans' anger and what policies may fix it. You're streaming the Daily Report. In theory, elections are about elevating politicians to solve the country's most complex problems. This year, some states are looking to galvanize voters with an issue that may be widely discussed but is not a widespread problem. 8 states have questions on the ballot to explicitly ban non-citizens from voting in local elections. 7 other states have already altered their constitutions to do so. Members of Congress are also joining the conversation. Earlier this month, House Republicans passed a bill requiring proof of citizenship for voting, even though it's already illegal for non-citizens to vote in federal races. The bill has little chance of becoming law. CBS News immigration and politics reporter Camilo Montoya Galvez joins me now from the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee. Camilo, let's just get the context right here. What are the current laws on the books about non-citizens voting, and how big of a phenomenon is somehow non-citizens actually trying to vote?
Good evening, John. Non-citizen voting is rare according to all the available statistics. As you underscored, it is already illegal under U.S. law to vote in a federal election as a non-citizen, and violators of that provision of U.S. law can actually not only be jailed and fined, but deported from the U.S. And this applies to migrants who are here in the country illegally, John, but also to permanent residents, immigrants who are not U.S. citizens but who have lawful status. They also cannot vote in federal elections for president or for a member of Congress. And there is currently no state in the U.S. that allows non-citizens to vote in state elections. There is a very small handful of localities in states like Maryland and New York that do allow certain immigrants with lawful status to vote in local elections, but again, they cannot vote in federal and state elections. And in terms of how widespread this issue is, according to the data that we have available, it is not very widespread. We know that the Justice Department over the past 2 decades has prosecuted a small number of cases involving non-citizens voting in federal elections, but we're talking about dozens of cases, not hundreds, and certainly not thousands, John. And we also know that states that have been trying to target and remove non-citizens from voting rolls have found very few cases of these violations. Ohio most recently actually found 137 non-citizens in its voting system. That's out of millions of eligible voters in Ohio, John. So in sum, there is no evidence to suggest that there are any significant numbers of non-citizens voting in federal elections. Certainly not enough to alter the outcome of any election.
So if it's already a felony for non-citizens to vote, why are federal lawmakers continuing to talk about this and members in Congress suggesting legislation?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, John. We do know that Republicans and former President Donald Trump have made immigration.
You always say million-dollar question. Nobody talks like that.
And it seems like they are trying to
the Hardy Boys
the
talk
issue
like
of
that.
Election integrity, which is a major issue among Republican primary voters, but also general election voters, and the issue of immigration. Because of the situation at the border, Republican lawmakers and former President Trump are saying that the increase in illegal immigration at the border also increases the chances, John, that non-citizens and potentially migrants who are coming across the border can vote in federal elections. Again, there has been no evidence to suggest that that is happening. There's also a more fringe claim out there, John, that the Biden administration and Democrats are actively welcoming migrants to convert them into eligible voters. There's no evidence to suggest, John, that Biden administration immigration policy, which you can certainly disagree with, John, is dictated by a desire to convert immigrants into voters. And it is also important to note that most of these migrants will never be able to vote if they can in the first place. Even those who win asylum, which, as you know, will not happen for the most of them because they're not eligible for it, have to wait 5 years as permanent residents to naturalize as U.S. citizens and obviously gain the ability to vote.
And just very briefly, Camilo, if migrants were in the States, isn't there some studies or some evidence that because their status is so fragile, that it actually leads to people not wanting to do anything that might get them in trouble, which is to say monkey around with the election system that might get them kicked out of the country, that they know that their system is so precarious that this would be a particular place where they might basically lose the status they've worked so hard to get?
That is right, and that is the deterrence that lawmakers sought to enact when they made it a felony crime for non-citizens to vote in federal elections. Not only do they face fines, John, and jail time, but they can also be deported from the U.S. even if they have lawful status. Permanent residents, unbeknownst to many people in the U.S., can also be deported just like unauthorized immigrants if they commit certain crimes. And this is one of the crimes that fits into that definition. It makes people deportable even if they're here legally, and that, according to experts, is having the desired deterrent effect and dissuading non-citizens from voting in federal elections.
Camilo Montoya Galvez, thank you so much, Camilo. Sweltering heat hasn't let up for most of the country as nearly 120 million Americans remain under heat alerts. The feels-like temperatures in multiple cities in the northeast region of the country topped 100 degrees today. Tom Hansen is here in New York City, where temperatures soared into the 90s. Tom?
Thank you.
Hey there, John. We're at Domino Park in Brooklyn, and I can tell you it is hot and sweltering with temperatures in the mid-90s, but the feeling is so much higher because we are...
Surely find me soon. Fates will, we meet again. I would pay my respects to your brother.
You're a fugitive now, too. Stay low for a while.
Oh no, did I lose my party members? I did.
Do as you like. That stone's ill-favored.
We feel regret. We sought that stone and found ourselves only worry.
You offering it?
It's mine.
Then why'd you ask? Our regards to your girl.
We stay in Rabanastre a while.
I lost my party, damn it.
What do you think? Can I trust Bosch?
No. I mean, yes.
I gotta get rid of this thing. But maybe I should show it to Pinello first, so she knows I got something. She'd be at Miguel's place this time of day.
In a heat island because of all of the concrete. It basically serves as a convection for all of that heat, and so it is actually feeling like it is triple digits. Now I want to show you what's going on behind me, because while so many people can stay cool, others are still at work, including these construction workers who, oddly enough, are building what will become an ice rink in the fall. Now, while this new structure is going up, it's to the backdrop of very old structures like this steel bridge behind me. That is of concern for city officials because that steel can expand, which can cause bridges to buckle. It can cause certain types of bridges to stall. That's exactly what we saw 2 weeks ago when temperatures hit this. It sent traffic to a gridlock just north of us. Now, this heat advisory is not just happening in New York City. It's happening in Baltimore, in D.C., all up and down the Northeast corridor, impacting roughly 120 million Americans at the moment right now. So city officials are telling people here in New York City to stay cool, stay out of the heat if they can help it, because that heat can creep up on you and it can really cause some damage in the form of heat stroke or other kinds of heat-borne sicknesses. Now, to combat that, they have opened roughly 500 cooling centers here in New York City. They are urging people to use those if they need a place to cool down. And for now, we're all waiting for the relief to come. That should be on the way in the coming days, John.
Tom Hansen, thank you very much. Crews are battling a series of wildfires across Southern California. In Santa Barbara, the Lake Fire has burned more than 38,000 acres in a week and a half. Fire officials said the flames were 38% contained as of Tuesday afternoon. The county sheriff's office lowered several evacuation orders to warnings, meaning there's impending danger to life or property and people should start preparing to leave. Further north in Kern County, at least 5 new wildfires sparked over the weekend. The largest is the Hurricane Fire, which has burned more than 12,000 acres since Saturday, but it's now 95% contained. The nearby Lost Hills fire, though, is 0% contained. The National Weather Service warns the extreme heat across the state is increasing the risk of fires spreading. Our earliest ancestors lived in caves, and, thanks to new findings, future generations may be able to stay in caves on the moon. Italian scientists recently confirmed an underground cave on the lunar surface, located just 250 miles from the site of the 1969 Apollo 11 moon landing. The pit is at least 130 feet deep and several yards long. Experts believe it's one of more than 200 similar crevices created by the collapse of a lava tube that occurs when lava flowing beneath the hardened surface empties and leaves a cave. Researchers suggest the cave could serve as a future location for a permanent moon base because it offers protection from the harsh surface environment. Another fatal series of Israeli airstrikes across Gaza. We'll have the latest from our Deborah Patta in Tel Aviv about the worsening humanitarian situation for Palestinians and where ceasefire talks stand at the moment. You're streaming the Daily Report. Welcome back to the Daily Report. I'm John Dickerson. Here are some additions to our top stories. Several lawmakers are calling for New Jersey Senator Bob Menendez to resign after being found guilty in his federal bribery case. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer said resigning was the right thing for his constituents. New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy called on the Senate to expel Menendez if he does not step down. The Biden administration is targeting soaring rent prices. It is proposing to withdraw tax credits from landlords who raise rent by more than 5% per year. The proposal applies to landlords with more than 50 units, which affects about 20 million rental units nationwide. It would require congressional approval. French President Emmanuel Macron has accepted Prime Minister Gabriel Attal's resignation, but he won't be out of work right away. Attal and other members of the government will stay on to handle current affairs until new leaders are appointed. There's no firm timeline for Macron to name a new prime minister. CBS News has learned that the Secret Service had actually increased security around Donald Trump ahead of Saturday's rally when he was shot because of an assassination plot by forces in Iran. According to two U.S. officials, the Iranian threat was not connected to the assassination attempt at the rally. The Biden administration was made aware of the foreign plot against Trump ahead of Saturday and relayed the information to Trump's protection detail. But even with the extra security, the gunman managed to shoot former President Trump in the ear. In a statement, a National Security Council spokesman said, quote, "These threats arise from Iran's desire to seek revenge for the killing of Qasem Soleimani. We consider this a national and homeland security matter of the highest priority." Trump ordered the killing of Soleimani in 2020. He had been the leader of the Iranian Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. Back at the Republican National Convention, the first night was devoted to the economy, which was not surprising, but the primetime speaking slot for the head of the Teamsters Union was.
You know, corporatists hate when working people join together to form unions. But for a century, major employers have waged a war against labor by forming corporate unions of their own. We need to call the Chamber of Commerce and the business roundtables what they are. They are unions for big business.
The sentiment in those remarks was different than the other first night speakers who beat up on the economic performance under Joe Biden. Instead, the Teamsters president was talking about systemic inequalities in the American economy, kept in place by corporations whose lobbyists and executives funded and attended the Republican convention. Though there has been a great deal of discussion about individual economic indicators this election, we thought we'd try to address some of the larger questions raised by O'Brien's speech. And so for that, Neil Malhotra joins me now. He's a professor of political economy at the Stanford University Graduate School of Business. Thank you so much for being with us. So the basic premise of the American economy is that hard work and perseverance can lead to success. What's the status of that promise now relative to what it once was?
Well, if you kind of go back to the 1950s and 60s, the post-World War II economy, for example, not having a college degree didn't mean that you were going to be a member of the economic underclass. You had a pathway to succeed in the American economy. Real wages were increasing over time. And then, starting about the 1980s, for many complex factors, kind of the basic American worker, especially people, the working class without college degrees, have been having a harder time. And there has been progress made in recent years, but for many people that's still not enough, especially in an era of persistently high inflation, high housing prices, etc.
So the unemployment rate is still under 4%. Historically, that's a pretty good number. So why, and is this, so what's the economic reason, or is it an expectation reason for what the Teamsters president talked about, which is that even though the unemployment level is low, Americans can't win, as he put it?
Yeah, it must frustrate people in the Biden administration, particularly members of his economic team, that they've made a bunch of economic progress on indicators, but the feeling of the American public is still negative. And one reason is of human psychology. So psychologists have taught us that when people do well, they attribute that to their individual skill and success. And then when people do poorly, they attribute it to external factors. So people have seen an increase in their wages, but because of inflation, they haven't seen an increase in their standard of living. So you can kind of understand if somebody was making $50,000 a year and now they're making $70,000, but their life doesn't seem any better, they could be reasonably upset by something like that.
What do you make of this number? So 80 years ago, more than 90% of Americans were financially better off than their parents. Today, only 50% of Americans can say the same. Is that is that a real blow to the American conception of opportunity, or is that, again, back into that perception point you were making earlier?
I mean, I think an expectation of Americans, and this is immigrants, it's new Americans, old Americans, is that their children will have better lives than them. And it's part of the American dream. And one of the reasons I think people don't perceive that's a possibility anymore is that they don't view themselves in an era of abundance, but they view themselves as an era of scarcity. So things just seem scarce. There's not enough houses to buy, not enough train lines and highway lines are being built, not enough energy is being produced. So whereas we had prior eras of American society which were seen as abundant and full of opportunity, people just don't see that kind of future for their children. And it may contribute to why people are having fewer children. They don't see an abundant world to send children out into.
As of 2022, half of the families in the U.S. only own 2% of the wealth in the country. Does that point to a specific weakness in American opportunity or another economic weakness in the economic system at the moment?
Well, I think economic inequality is a complicated concept because John F. Kennedy used to say that a rising tide lifts all boats. And what that meant is that even if you had an increase in inequality, it still could be okay as long as everybody was doing well. But I think people are getting the sense now that only a certain portion of people are doing better.
What the hell?
Especially people that already own a lot of assets and own a lot of capital. But for people that want to enter the economy, who want to grow their own net worth, it's becoming more challenging. And that some people might be left at the bottom of the economic sea. So inequality necessarily isn't a bad thing, but if people see that it sort of decreases equality of opportunity, that's when people start getting concerned.
And finally, Professor, at the last question, and it's not an easy one, but it's a presidential year. If the voters could keep the two candidates focused on 1, 2, or 3 issues to get at this question of improving American opportunity or what should they focus on? What should they be thinking about?
Well, I think you saw the president already talk about one of these things, which is how to keep housing prices under control. So although it is a controversial proposal, the idea of having some way to incentivize landlords to cap rents. And then I think on the Republican side, it'll be interesting to see how they use things like immigration to maybe stem that, to kind of keep wages high among certain sectors of the economy. And I think the fact that the Teamsters president is at the Republican convention is a sign that both parties are trying to focus on the working class as a pathway to win. There has been times before that the Teamsters have sided with the Republicans under Presidents Nixon and Reagan. And so I think we're just in a very interesting time in American politics right now, which could be subject to realignment of labor and